If you're into stories and journeys about success through naysayers and encouragement, I got a podcast episode for you. Christine Santelli is a wonderful Grammy-nominated artist who actually worked through doing 100 songs in 100 days. She's played all around the world, and she's right here from New York. You're going to love this story. We get into the tips and tricks about songwriting, and we get to hear her great music and great collaborations. Check it out. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Long Island Sound Podcast. And my guest today is fantastic. And I got to give you a little bit of a backstory. I went to see my friend Diane Lotney, who's a mutual friend, Christine, and we had Scarlett Rivera there. And then there were the two ladies who popped up, violinist and a great country blues guitarist, and I'm like, holy crap. And it was just so a magical night to see what I assumed were two ladies who were inspired somewhat by the other musicians that were in the audience as well. So that's how I met Christine. And Christine, welcome to the Long Island Sound Podcast. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Steve. This is an honor, and it was so nice to meet you, and this is cool, man.
Thanks. So out of my curiosity for musicians, one, I'm amazed at people who can woodshed their craft. It doesn't come natural. There's a lot of hard work that's behind it. And the fact that you're a songwriter, and we're going to talk about the 100-song thing. And I'll just give a little hint about that because that's, I think, really cool. When did you first pick up the guitar? Where were you born? Yeah, give me some background on who Christine is.
I was born in Manhattan and then shipped upstate to Clifton Park, New York, which was just between Albany and Saratoga.
Yeah, know it well.
And so I spent my youth there, and my parents, I was adopted, and my parents were told to enter into the arts.
Okay.
So I had art lessons, I had piano lessons, I had dance lessons. And so when I was about 7, I was taking piano lessons, and I really did not like my teacher. It was like pulling teeth going, when you don't have a good connection with somebody, how are you going to learn? Even at 7 years old.
Right.
You know, so I had an older brother who was also playing music, and I had gone to a reunion the following year, and my brother and I were there, and I'm 8 years old. He's 12 at this point. And my older cousins that I had never met were around a bonfire playing guitar. Nice. And I was like, and singing, I was like, this is what I want to do. And, you know, we didn't grow up with a lot of money. And my dad was like, well, this is expensive, and we want to continue with the piano. So can you guys take lessons together? So it'd be one price for, you know, share a guitar. So we did. And we had a phenomenal teacher that was, she's originally from Florida, very hippie chick, really cool, and introduced us to Bob Dylan and all the great folkies from the 60s. So I loved it. And
nice.
We took lessons for about a year together, and then my father bought me a new guitar, and then my brother continued taking lessons. I took lessons, and we ended up singing harmonies together growing up. And I joined the folk group at my church,
right?
And because I was watching as a younger person, once I got a little bit older, my brother was in the folk group, and then I got old enough where I could be in the folk group, and then I was one that led the folk group.
Okay.
So I was, and in the meantime, it's elementary school. I'm doing any talent show I can do. Just want to be out there playing music. And my brother and I, until he left for college, had done weddings together and all that kind of stuff. And it's funny because I'm thinking back, like we did weddings, which is all pure and all that. But I remember my father bringing me into a bar when I was not even 12, because I would sneak into bars when I was 12, 13. Back then it was okay. I guess I tell myself that. But so I had to be on less than 10. And Yeah, and my brother and I played in this little bar.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was 10 years old. It was really amazing.
You
Amazing.
know what's amazing about your journey is one, that insight that your parents had to, hey, or whoever influenced them to say, get you into the arts, because they recognize something in you. And I could share the same story because I did piano lessons with my sister, Mrs. Wallace. I still, God bless her, Mrs. Wallace. And it was torturous for the both of us to sit there and listen to us practice. And she had underlined in the book, like, you didn't practice enough. You got to do this another time. Another time.
Yeah.
It was like horrified. I couldn't get away from the piano.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
true.
And then
Yeah, I started taking lessons from a gentleman in Saratoga who is one of the greatest guitar players, Peter Davis. You can see him every year at the Saratoga racetrack. He's out there with his jazz group. And, he's well into his late 70s now. But I remember him telling me, you're the worst student I've ever had in my life. But I can't stop giving you lessons because I know there's something in there. And you're the only person I would continue with because I know there's so much talent there. So that was a big thing for me. And I think when I was probably 14 years old, I don't know if you're familiar with the venue in Saratoga. Oh, Cafe Lena. Cafe Lena in Saratoga.
Yep.
So my teacher brought me to perform at Cafe Lena when I was, I had to be 14 maybe. And Lena was still alive at that time, and everybody had played there. Bob Dylan and all the folk people from the 60s played there. They would go up from New York City and play in this venue. And I was so fortunate to be able to play. And I got off stage, and she took my hands and, said, keep doing it because you got something. And that was really inspiring because I knew how important she was. Unfortunately, she passed away probably 10 years later, but I never did play the venue again. Unfortunately, I was told no. After like 30, 40 years, whatever it's been, 35 years in the business, they're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, Lena's not alive, so she's not the one making the decisions. So,
wow.
Anyway, but that was a big deal for me. So, I don't know, am I talking too much? I mean, this is a tough thing, right?
You know what I find very interesting, and I got to ask you this. So when your original teacher said, you've got something, but you're like my most difficult student or whatever. What was difficult about you?
I hated to practice. I did not like to practice. I caught things pretty easily, and believe me, I know a lot of jazz chords because of him. But he taught me all that stuff. So I paid attention what was important to me and for songwriting and at the time. And I was just a lazy kid. But honestly, the finger progressions, all that stuff stayed with me. I just didn't know necessarily what chord I was playing, diminished ninth or, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, if I sat down and looked at my hands and go, okay, this is a B and this is a diminished and this, I would be able to figure it out. But it would take me a long time as opposed to be ingrained in my head. So when I'm writing, I throw these chords in that stuff that I learned from him, but couldn't tell you what I'm playing.
You notice, I think Paul McCartney did the same thing. If it sounded good, it's good, Yeah. But I think so many people in the audience, I can certainly relate to, I played around. YouTube really helped me out. I love going from the piano to the guitar because you could play something without not knowing a lot of the detail about it.
Yeah.
And when I met Mike Nugent, my guitar teacher, my whole motivation at that time was I got to understand what the hell's on this neck to a certain degree because I feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean you can't play.
No, exactly.
And the other thing I'm getting from your story is, and I love this, and now as I get older, I look back at the people who encouraged me at different aspects of my life, and it comes to you, and it's just a simple phrase or something saying, "Hey, you've got something there," that carries you for hours and weeks and years to say, "Wow, somebody appreciates me," and I think that's what all artists and creatives.
I had when I was in junior high school, middle school, my brother played trumpet. So,
Okay.
I looked up to my brother was everything to me. I followed him like a little puppy, and he took me everywhere. He took me to his gigs, parties and stuff. But so he was playing trumpet, and so when I got old enough, I wanted to play trumpet. So I would play trumpet from the time I was in elementary school, since I was 10 until I was probably 13, taking
Okay.
piano and guitar lessons at the same time.
Wow.
And then I left it in the band room over the weekend,
Okay.
and it got stolen.
Oh, shit.
So my parents, I was so scared to, once I realized that
Deliver that news, right?
oh
Yeah.
my God. So it got stolen, and that was that. And so the year was ending. So now I'm going into ninth grade.
Right.
And in my school, it went from 7, 8, 9. We didn't go to the high school till 10th grade. So I decided I wanted to join the chorus because I was singing with my guitar. I didn't love the trumpet. I played it because my brother played it. I wasn't that good at it. And once again, I don't like to practice. So I joined the chorus, and I had this teacher, Mr. Johnson, and I was only going to be there 1 year. And he just doted on me. I was not like the rest of the kids. I was not, I didn't have the soprano female voice. I didn't have the Broadway voice. It didn't matter to him. He's like, you have this big voice. And he really encouraged me. So when it was time to go into high school, he got in touch with Dr. Onofrio, who was the, in charge of all the chorale and all these other offshoots. There's a lot.
Right.
And so I had to audition, and he said no. He told my teacher, at the end of the ninth grade, he said, no, I can't take her because how old am I? 13?
Right.
13 years old. She's got a bar voice. We don't want anything to do with that.
Jesus.
So
Wow.
my teacher, Mr. Johnson tells me this, but this is a long time ago. I don't think we would be telling students this.
Right.
This day and age, I remember getting in trouble in 5th grade, and my teacher puts his feet up on the desk and starts smoking. They don't do that stuff anymore.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna prove you wrong so bad. So I convinced him to let me into the class. Then I tried out for barbershop quartet, made that, and
Wow.
then he there was like an all-state competition.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm doing this. And not only did I get in, but I had a solo. So I was like, Mr. Onofrio, thank you actually for like not believing in me, And, but one of the cool things was, we never got along. That's fine. I'll never forget his name. And you know what? I do have a bar voice.
Wait, but you know what's amazing? And so you get those no's, right? A lot of artists get no's, right?
Yeah.
I'm motivated sometimes when somebody says you can't do that.
Exactly.
Like, F you.
Watch me. Yeah.
I'm going to prove you wrong. So that's a different type of motivation, and the fact that you can handle that and kind of laugh about it today.
It's funny. One of the really cool things that happened in the class was someone who had, I don't remember the person's name, but someone who had graduated and went off and was trying to be a musician and performing and, having a career of sorts, playing in bars. And she came back to the school and gave a talk. And I was like, well, this is where I fit in. I'm not going to go to Broadway. I'm not going to do this other stuff. And so that was really inspiring for me too, especially at that age.
That
was
amazing stuff. Hey, let's do this, Christine. Let's just take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, I really want to get into your songwriting, how you developed your voice, how you found your voice. I think that's kind of unique because, counteract that with, all these America's Got Talent, what I call bullshit shows with, the wannabes and people like mirror so many different artists. finding your own voice, I think, and being true to yourself is something that we should tackle.
Cool.
Everybody, stick with us. We'll be right back. So I think it's about time we hear some of Christine's music. Here's a teaser of her song, Guilty. Hey, go check her out on Spotify for the full song and the rest of her catalog. Enjoy.
Ventured out one night to have myself a beer. Ordered a whiskey on the side. Like many times before, I walked out the door. Never thought I'd end up doing time. Your skin was milky white, your hair was raven black. The way you walk by caught my eye. Your lips were crimson red, and you swam through my head. Never thought I'd end up doing time. And I'm guilty for loving you.
Hey, everybody, we're back with Christine Santelli. Did I get it right?
You got it. Exactly. Exactly right.
Hey, Christine, one of the amazing things in doing my little bit of homework on you, and Diane Lotney, who's a mutual friend. Diane, great, soulful singer.
Love,
Yeah,
love, love, love,
she
love
she
her.
raises the hair on my arms every time
Insane.
I hear her sing. So she's like very enthusiastic that I was going to interview you. Said, "Oh, she wrote 100 songs in 100 days." And
Oh,
I'm
she
like,
told you.
yeah, and I'm like, come on, but really, who's got that dedication? Somebody who doesn't like to practice? No way. Hey, let's get in.
Writing songs and practicing are two different things.
Well, what the hell? What the hell do I know? I just I just interview people. I don't know
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
So tell me about. Give me some insight into your process, and then into that 100 songs in 100 days. What motivated you to
So,
take that on?
when I was younger, I would write songs. And that's another reason why my teacher liked me, because he's like, you're very creative, and I like your songs that you write, because we used to do that too. Because like I had said, I didn't like to practice, but I like to make music. So fast forward, I was doing a lot of blues music and not playing much guitar and singing, and we did a lot of traveling around the world, blah blah blah. New York
Really?
City,
Oh.
yeah, all over. And the New York City blues scene kind of died, and I got to a point where it's like, I'm sitting here bartending, and I haven't had a gig in 3 months. What am I doing? This is crazy. This is 2010, maybe.
Okay.
And maybe sooner. No, it had to be 2002. It was 2002.
Okay.
And so I'm like, I just picked myself up and grabbed my acoustic guitar, and I said, I used to write, I can still write, and I started writing again. And I started playing the little venues by myself, because I got to save myself here. This is for me. I'm here on this journey for me, not everybody else. So I
Right.
started playing solo gigs with my acoustic guitar, and at the time I was bartending, but I was also booking the club. So I was in charge of all the musicians that came through there. And one of the musicians that had come through was James Wormworth, who eventually became the drummer on Conan O'Brien's show. And he's the one that started my whole European thing back in the 90s. But during that time, people had sold the bar, new people came in, and then, everything's fine going along. We had a long run. I think it was 17 years at Scotland Yard in Hoboken. And I started a songwriter night on Sundays. The owner didn't even know I was doing it. It was like, because we would have music from 7 to 10, and then I'd be there till 2 in the morning. So I just invited all my friends down and
Nice.
the other bartenders, because the bartenders would also be playing music. And so we'd switch off. I'd go play. And then the other bartender would bartend while I played. So we had this little secret community of writing. And that went on for a few years. And then fast forward, the guy that came in and fired me, wasn't allowed to fire me, but said I was on a perpetual suspension until
double Double secret suspension?
So, he until the contract was up, I was, supposed to be there at least 6 months, and I found myself out of a job. So,
Mm,
I started to collect unemployment, a whopping $237 a week,
yeah.
and so I'm like, I had played. My husband is also a musician. He's a drummer. We played together since in 1987.
Okay.
Um, and he was at a gig and I was writing. I wrote a song. I wrote 2 songs that night actually. And the last thing he wants to do when he gets done with the gig is hear music. He's
All
like,
right.
no. I'm like, no, it's a really good song. And he's like, so finally he's like, all right, just play it for me. And it was called Wouldn't Be Wise. And he looked at me and he said, um, you should like write 100 songs in 100 days.
Okay.
And I looked at him and I was like, you know what? I'm not working right now. And I need a break. I've been at this place for 17 years. So
Wow.
I committed the next day on Facebook to 100 days putting up videos of
Mm,
original music for 100 days. And I did it.
wow.
Um, there was some days we were on tour and we were on the radio. So one of the songs, I'm like, okay, let's film this because I got to put this on, up on my site. This is Dave, whatever. And then we filmed something from the radio station or at a gig. It was like, okay, we got to do that one song for the 100 days. So filmed it at the gig and put it up. But I spent the majority of the days waking up, grabbing my guitar, and if that didn't work out, I'd move over to the piano and
Okay.
I'd start banging on the piano. And if that didn't work out, I'd grab the bass and I'd start just doing bass line.
Hmm.
So with all the instrumentation that was in the house, I would come up with some sort of song by the end of the day. So at the end of the day, now I'm going to film it, right? I got to
Okay.
practice it enough during that day. I'm playing all day long. I mean, I'm not moving except
Wow.
for playing all day long. And so unless something came real quick. But like the piano stuff, like I took piano as a kid, right? But
Right.
I was not a good student. We didn't get along. I didn't have that passion for the piano,
Sure.
So to learn the songs that I was writing, it took a long time. So, but by the end of the day, it's like, all right, now you got to put it up on Facebook and YouTube. So that means I got to get dressed, put makeup
Right.
on, put,
Yeah.
do my hair or put a hat on. Every day was a different look.
Yeah.
I think I got to maybe 50 and I sat in my bed and I recorded from here to here, just the guitar, and it's called Lazy. And that's the song. Uh, but yeah, it was a incredible experience for me. And when it was over, I was really sad.
Hmm.
But I knew that I had to take time away.
Right.
So, unfortunately, and I've recorded a lot of these songs.
Okay.
And I still go back, even songs that I haven't recorded, I do play. So yeah, so the majority of them, there's out of all of them, I mean, there's none that I can't listen to, you know.
Okay. All right.
Um,
That's fair.
And the majority of them, I'm like, oh, I forgot what a great song that was. Let's pull that one back out. We could really record this one. Um, yeah, it was an incredible experience. So yeah, I
Yes.
went on to record, I don't know, probably, I think we've recorded 75% of the songs already.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
So, what I find so interesting about that, and I ask people, you get the old question, lyrics or melody first, and
yeah.
that sort of thing.
So my process is I usually pick up the guitar and uh just play a chord. I don't know where it's coming from, and then
Hmm.
I'll have an utterance of a word or a sound, and then the I'd say the chord structure comes first, it's barely first. It's because the song comes right in at the same time.
Right.
So a word will get in there. For example, I did a song called Alligator, and alligator really, like, there's nothing sexy about an alligator. Nothing, I mean, these
Yeah.
are prehistoric animals from Ice Age, whatever, before. And so, but that was the word. It wouldn't go away, and it was going with, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And so I Googled alligators, and it turns out that alligators have this incredible uh seduction under the water. They sing and blow bubbles.
Oh,
Yeah, it's this beautiful thing that happens before they, you know, do the
devour
nasty. You
something.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
So I was like, this is actually a love song. So it's one of my favorite songs that I've written. And
Oh, it's amazing.
it's so beautiful. And if that was the key, it was like just finding out a little bit more about alligators, and then it was like, it's not just about alligators. There's some of my life in there. There's some things that I've observed on other people. And nothing is ever just straight from my, life.
Right. Right.
There's definitely aspects of it. And sometimes there's absolutely nothing about me in the song. It's just a story. I was
Right.
always good at writing and English, like that kind of stuff. So I knew I had the ability to do it. So, yeah, what comes first? It's usually the instrument for only a second, and the voice comes right in with the
Oh, all right.
story. And then sometimes I get stuck on the story, but a lot of times it just it finds its way. There's a story there. It's a start, and then all of a sudden it's like this whole imaginative world happens, and this beautiful story comes out.
Right. And one thing leads to another.
Yeah.
What's fascinating to me is in our busy world, if you look to, I would say this is a generalization, young songwriters, it can
Mhm.
be pointing in all the
Yeah,
time.
all the
Me
time. Yeah.
to a degree, and then as we progress, and then when you have the ability to write fanciful or third person, we're getting into the skin of something that's totally different. You might have an inkling about it. That I think is so magical,
Yeah.
and then just broadens out what people and the hearers, the audience,
Hmm.
where they can take it on as their own and go in 14 different directions,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that. That's amazing. And then finding the time. So, I've heard about songwriters rounds and stuff like that. I go to Neil Young all the time. He's like, when you get the inspiration, shit, everything else stops, and
Yeah.
you work it, because guess what? Tomorrow's a different day, and it ain't going to be there.
Exactly. And I
And you're
always
not going to
said,
be the same person,
no,
right?
and sometimes things come at night right before I go to bed, and it's like I'm so tired, and I always said to myself, like, God, I wish they'd come up with a thought recorder. So while I'm sleeping, and it's just like, it's when are they going to come up with that? Because there's so many ideas that come out in the middle of the night, and it's like sometimes I get up and write it down or record
Good for
something
you.
little on my phone. I mean, now we have phones. I mean, I was recording on a I mean, go back to the audio club when you're in elementary school, those, black boxes where you put the cassette tape in.
Yep,
I mean,
yep,
that's
yep.
what I recorded on. That's what I had. I had a boom box and I had one of those. And that's what I recorded on for a lot of my songs.
That's
Nothing like what's out today or even like 20 years ago.
right. Now it's literally within your hand already, so you
Right.
have that. But what most, and I'll put myself in this category,
Uh,
most people don't have the discipline to
mhm.
record it, or I joke about it and I kick myself in the ass. I've written 1,000 pieces of 1,000,000 songs
Yeah.
that are tucked away in my phone.
Yeah.
I have to go back to it. But then, I
I
get,
have that too. I have that
yeah,
too. They don't always come to fruition. I'll tell you one song I was writing. It was the coolest, like um Rolling Stones esque,
mhm,
right? And it was cool. And it was about this woman, Rita. I don't
okay,
know anybody named Rita until much later in my life. Anyway, I couldn't finish the song. I don't know when I wrote it first. Maybe like I started writing it maybe on the 13th day or the 15th day of this 100, uh, 100 days. And I would start with that to try to finish it. It just was not happening. And I think I got to maybe 75, and I'm like, we're getting close to the end here. I don't know, or maybe it was even 80 something. And I said, you know, I'm keeping Rita, but I'm going to put the rest of it to bed. And I wrote a different song called Sweet Rita, which I don't know if you know who Bill Sims Jr. was, but he passed away about 5 years ago.
Okay.
What a treasure of New York. He was a writer. He wrote for so many different. He had so many different like Tony Awards and stuff. He wrote for plays, and usually in like blues situation. He came to my gig one day, which you know when he shows up,
This
you
is what,
feel.
in New York
Yeah,
or
it was in New York. I was playing at
Okay.
the Ear Inn where I met Diane Lotney. He
Yep.
came to see me. He was sitting right in front of me, and I played this song, and he was just so supportive and like, this song, Christine, is just amazing. I can't tell you what he said that day. I wish I had recorded it because all I know is I didn't hear anything. All I heard was his smile. I saw him smile, and I know it was good. And I was like, I'm doing something right here. So,
Yeah.
you know, to get feedback from those kind of people. And also when I was doing this, um, he was following me on Facebook. So every
Oh,
day
okay.
people got up and like he was in Europe a lot. So he'd get up on Facebook and the first thing he would do was click in to see what I did for the day. So people started like him and Brian Mitchell and other people were like, I'm following your songs, you know? So it was pretty cool.
Oh, that's so neat. Hey, let's
Yeah.
do this. We're going to take another quick break.
Okay.
And I want to get into your travels.
Yeah.
But I also want to talk about the two songs or at least one song because got this feeling that the audience is like, wow, this is a wonderful lady. I really want to hear what she's got. And we want to give them just a little bit of a sample of
Okay.
it. How's that sound? Sound
Sounds
good?
great. Sounds great.
All right, everybody. We'll be back with Christine Santelli, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Never going to forget how to pronounce that name. Hang with us, everybody. We'll be right back.
All right.
Here's another bit of Christine's music called Closing Time. Hey, remember, look her up on Spotify and help support our artists out there. All right, check it out. Hey, everybody, we're back with Christine Santelli. Christine, I'm interested in your music. I've been digesting it for days now, preparing for this interview. Tell me about your journey, about your travels. How did it come together for you?
So I mentioned earlier I was bartending. When I moved to New York City back in 1992, I started gigging here in 91, and realized that I wanted to move down here I was going to college in Plattsburgh.
Okay.
And I was playing up there. I was playing in Boston. We were just, I was, since my, you know, I started playing up there the second year I was there. That was it. It was like I was over the college stuff in a year. I was on to music with the locals and whoever was playing music.
Right.
So we put a band together and we were in Vermont. We hit the road locally, you know, once things had come together within a year or something. And we went to Boston, we went to New York City. And once I graduated, I was offered, you know, I went to school not for music because that wasn't really an option. Like my brother
Okay.
wanted to go to school for music, and my parents were like, "You're not gonna make any money. You're gonna be a school teacher. That's it." You know, so he wasn't allowed to do that. So he went on to be a computer programmer, and into this incredible career. And now
Right.
he can buy any instrument he wants. He can do whatever he wants, but, so that wasn't really an option for me for college. So I went to, I went and got my not my graduate degree, my bachelor's in psychology, but I was
Okay.
playing music this whole time. Then I went and got my master's degree in education, and then I was teaching for a year, but that job ended because I was filling in for somebody because a music teacher. Now I didn't go to school for music, but they knew I was a musician, so they put me in what she had fallen off the stage. She was on the
Oh
stage
boy.
preparing for the concert, and she was up on the stage on top of a ladder. So she falls off the ladder and off the stage and breaks her back. So
Oh
she's out for the
shit.
rest of the year. So
Wow.
they take me in and they give me it's first it started as just like subbing every day, but then eventually they put me on um salary, and I went to the end of the year, but she got better. So now I'm like, all right, this is it. I'm moving to New York City. I moved to New York City that summer. That yeah, I stayed the summer and moved in 1992, but I've been playing in New York. So I moved in 92 here and had to supplement because even though I had 3 months worth of bookings
Right.
before I moved here, that was not going to pay the rent. I was coming from I was paying $164 a month for rent for 2 floors
Wow.
and a driveway and like a field over here where I could have barbecues. So I come down here and I
No way.
fortunately
Yeah.
found this very small apartment, a studio apartment that if I signed the lease for 2 years, I got a refrigerator. So I was like, yes. And
Bonus.
I was I started bartending because honestly, I went into the venue to get a job to play, and they saw my picture and were like, "Can you, the next morning she calls me in the morning and says, "Can you come? Do you know anybody that knows how to bartend?" And I said, "Well, I just moved here like 3 days ago. I don't really know anybody." And she said, "I'm talking about you. Will you bartend?" And now this place had music, and I was like, I don't know, I'll give it a shot. So she's like, I'm going to give you a job playing music. Don't worry about that. But I want you to bartend as well. So I was with her for a couple of years, and then
Was this in Manhattan?
this is in Hoboken,
Oh, Beacon. Okay.
and she was a burlesque dancer from Union City back in the day. So it was all what a cool lady,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the whole place was with all the pictures of the burlesque dancers, and it,
Back in
it
the
was a
day.
really it was a really cool thing. And a mobster bought her one mobster boyfriend bought her the bar. Very
It's
cool.
it's
I mean, this
it's
is
it's
my
Jersey. It's
introduction
Jersey.
to
Yeah.
coming in, right? And it's right off the PATH train. Anyway, long story short, she eventually sells to this guy, and they keep me on, but they're struggling for the beginning of the week, and they knew I was a musician. They're like, "Can you book some shows?" And I said, "Absolutely." So then I started booking it. Now I'm booking my friends,
Of course.
who are up here, like, and one of them was uh in the band was now I said his name earlier, and now I can't remember.
Let me see. Was that James?
Yeah, James Wormworth came in. He was playing with John, and I can't think of his last name at the moment, but he had played with Johnny Winter for a really long time. And so he said to me, Christine, my wife is booking um tours in Paris. He goes, when I come next time with John, I want you to get up with the band and sing. She's coming. And I was like, what? And she came to see me sing with someone else's band. And the next day, I signed a contract, and I went to get my passport, and I was on my way to Paris in 2 weeks. It was just
Oh my God.
incredibly amazing. And like I said, James went on to be the drummer after Max Weinberg for Conan O'Brien's show, and he's recently moved back, so it's like full circle now because it
Oh,
was like
that's
it was amazing. So that led to there was a really cool venue. And that led to they opened another club in Moscow, and I played in Moscow.
get
And
out of here.
yeah, I played there
Russia.
for 10 days. And then then they opened a place in Madrid, and I played there. And now I'm like a confident lady, and I am
Yeah.
on the phone to every agent and anybody who would talk to me. And
Right.
I end up booking the Montreux Jazz Festival in Switzerland, which is unheard of for an unknown. But
Right,
I had
sure.
done a festival, and the guy there who was a photographer is like, I kind of have a connection with the Montreux Jazz Festival. I did everything in my power to do it. And I met this guy who was an agent in Switzerland. And he's like, well, I don't have any connections with that or anything, but it was such a big deal to him because he'd been trying to get into the Montreux Jazz Festival with his artists for years.
Right.
And so I'm handing him an open pass to go. And he took me on, and we booked a tour around the Montreux Jazz Festival that I booked, myself.
Right.
And that opened up. And so we did a bunch of shows in Switzerland, and we went back several times. I never did the jazz festival again, but I did the jazz festival. I played, Bonnie Raitt was playing in the main room, and then I played after her where everybody comes out. So that was
Right.
but it was massive. And so we were only supposed to play one night, but it was such a hit. And Claude Knobs, the organizer, he just loved me, and I invited him to play harmonica with us. And so that was like just a great thing. The next day he calls and says, listen, he bumped somebody and put us on for the next night. And I was like, that's fantastic. So we get on for the next night, but now we're also invited to his house for dinner.
Okay.
So band's invited, my band's invited, Bonnie Raitt's band's invited,
Okay.
and Steve Cropper and
Oh, yeah.
he was playing with the Blues Brothers. So that band was invited. So those are the three bands that were invited to have a barbecue at his house. I'm like, am I like dreaming here? Is this crazy or what?
Now, what's the name of the guy now who owns the house?
Claude Knobs.
Claude Knobs. Okay.
Yeah. So he's the first. He started this thing back. Before Smoke on the Water came out. That whole thing. That's where that was all written about.
Right.
So I'm invited to his house for dinner, and I'm sitting having dinner with Steve Cropper across from me, and we're playing ping pong, and Bonnie's there with her dog, and so then he says, all right, let's go have a jam session. And I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. And then I look down at my watch, and they're all got their instruments. We're all invited to play. And then I go, oh my God, we have to go. I have to play the show. I was like, and he's like, where are you going? I'm like, well, you booked us to play the show. We got to be there like in less than an hour. We have to go. So I didn't get to play with them all.
Oh, man.
But,
right on the brink, right? Oh,
yeah,
that's
but
an
it really was
amazing.
amazing. It was really, and she was just, she couldn't have been nicer. She came out and took photos with me, and she couldn't have been nicer. And Steve was hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
It was a good time. It was a good time. So we did that, and then, it took me, then it was like, I don't know, I ended up in South Africa. I did 5 weeks in South Africa, which was, I mean, what a crazy, and everybody asked me, where's your favorite place you ever went? I said,
Right.
I mean, I love Paris, but they all are just so unique, and everything's so different, I mean, I'm in South Africa, and we're staying in a house, and we had shows 6 days a week. Plus, we did a festival. We did the Johnny Carson of South Africa, which was People of the South, which was amazing. Like, I get to go on this late night talk show, amazing, and there's panic buttons in every room of our house.
Oh, okay.
Not realizing what that meant, and because at the time, this was in the 90s,
Was apartheid still going on?
It wasn't.
Oh, okay.
But
it wasn't. Okay.
No.
But it's still dangerous.
Yeah, it's very dangerous. So at one point, we're in the house, and all of a sudden, all the doors are open, and people with AK-47s are pointed out at. Like,
get out of here!
Somebody hit the panic button,
and it was the police or the militia. Holy shit!
Like they're in the house with AK-47s, and we're like, well, no, it's us, it's not. Oh my God! That wasn't the
Wow.
first time with the April 27s. We got pulled over by the police on the side of the road. What a story that is. I don't know if it's for today, but anyway, we got out of it.
Okay. Yeah. We'll leave that. We'll
Christine
leave
got
that
us out of that one,
we'll
but
leave that to,
yeah, but
well,
what an amazing, but the music was amazing too, and the people really were great. We
yeah.
everything was unique. Every venue, every place we went, very unique. And I'm sure I played other places, and I can't just think right off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
yeah,
That's, my God. I I'm kind of blown away. That's just
it's
a
really
remarkable.
amazing. And
I'm gonna,
then
I'm gonna
yeah,
ask you an off the cuff question.
yeah,
By chance, when you were in Paris,
mhm.
do you know who Elliot Murphy is?
Elliot Murphy. I'm not sure.
Okay, we can cut that out. Elliot Murphy is a guy I interviewed. He was originally from Garden City, Long Island,
Okay.
and he's a Scarlet. He just wrote a song for Scarlet Revere
Oh
that's
wow.
that's debuting in 2025.
Oh
He,
wow.
he's been in Paris. He does 200 shows a year. He was
Good
back.
person for me to know.
Good person to know.
Mhm.
He just quick, and I know this is about you, but this might be a good tie-in. So Elliot, when he was in his 20s, went to Italy and Paris, wrote a bunch of songs, came back with those songs, met a gal, right? Came back, spent 6 years here, gets a record deal, Polydor, something like that, called
Mhm.
Aqua Show. Aqua Show. They didn't know what the hell to do with him. He was tagged as being the next Bob Dylan, along with Bruce Springsteen,
Oh
Loudon
wow.
Wainwright, and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
He ends up going back to Paris,
Uh-huh.
finds the same gal, by the way, who's his wife till this day.
Wow.
Wrote tons of books, was in a Fellini movie, and is the nicest guy in the world. And I met him. I met him at the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. Didn't know who the hell he was.
Right.
And he's like, "Yeah, I'll be on your podcast." I'm a knucklehead. Who the hell am I? I go and Google him. I'm like, "Holy crap!" Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway, Elliot Murphy, great guy. Worth looking him up on Facebook.
Yeah.
And you know what the tie-in to you is? He did a thing called Rock Dreams, where every day he wrote down his dreams,
Oh. Oh wow.
and it was very similar to your
Right.
song journey,
Wow.
And I'm like, holy shit, who has the discipline, one, to remember
Yeah.
it, and then to write it down, and
Yeah.
then to put it out there. Anyway,
Yeah.
I digress.
Oh, that's okay. Talking about Polydor, it's funny because I was in South Africa and it was at the end of the tour. And who comes to the show but Polydor? And they bought all my records out. And unfortunately, by the time I got back to the States and got back and connected with them, you know how record companies are. There's somebody's in charge one day and they're not in charge the next day. And
Right.
it was like, here's talking about opportunities missed. Like, I mean, you know, what done, done, done. I was sitting in my apartment one day and I got a call from another record label, like the president of this record label. And I'm
Okay.
like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And you know what? Same thing happened with him. It was like when I didn't have the material to provide him at the time. He knew about me, he knew wanted to do something with me. By the time I got the material together, he was gone. And it's just like
Oh, wow.
this has been how my career has happened.
Yeah.
And talking about songwriting and moving forward on that, because of that 100 songs in 100 days, a friend of mine who introduced me to Betty Levette, who's become my really good friend
Okay.
uh, over the last 20 years, because of the 100 days, they were looking for songs. And Kevin, her husband, who's also her manager, was going sifting through, and they picked a song that I had written. She thought, "How can you have written this at your age?"
Hmm.
And the funny thing is, songs are people interpret and wow,
Interpret.
and thank you
Interpret.
interpret songs differently. Where I
Sure.
was coming from in the song was one meaning, and where she was coming from in the song was a completely different meaning, but it
Hmm.
worked. And so we reworked a couple lyrics. That was it. And
Wow.
she recorded that song. And I'm trying to think what happened with that particular song. I think they were done recording or something. Anyway, she pushed forward. She had three more other songs she wanted to record. One was mine. One was a Bon Jovi song, which I'm like, what? but cool, that's really cool. She did some sort of thing with Bon Jovi at the Capitol or something.
Mhm.
But anyway, so they did a second, like, additional record that came out 3 months later, and this was on that record. And then, time went by. She loved the song. She performed it many times. She did it on BGO with her piano player. It was beautiful, beautiful. And then she came back to me several years later, ready for the next one. She said, "I'm looking for something," and talking about writing and discipline. I sat in my thing for 15 hours. I did not move except to go to the bathroom
Wow.
until I finished the song. And with her in mind, this was something that I wanted to. It was her from
Mhm.
beginning to end. I'd read her book. I'd known her now for 17 years. And I wrote this song, and I sent it in. I called my friend Brian Mitchell, and I said, I need to record this song. He helped me with the chorus, and I sent it over to her. And I didn't hear back for like 2 days, and she called me and said, I love the song, but they've already chosen the songs for the record.
Yeah.
And I said, well, maybe for the next record. And she goes, oh no, she said, I didn't allow that. It's on the record. And I was like,
Oh
"God,
man.
this is awesome." And then it was up for the album was up for a Grammy.
All right, because you're a Grammy-nominated
Yeah.
artist.
So the funny story about that is, so she said she'd been to the Grammy several times, and she's like, I'm not going this year.
Okay.
It's a big expense. It's always a letdown, whatever.
Right.
Um, Kind of like the Susan Lucci of the, thing.
A songwriter.
So
Yeah.
I said, well, I'll, she goes, if you want to go, you can go in my place. And if I win, you go up, give your
Okay.
speech, and you accept the award. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited. So I'm going out. I go to this store not a store. It's like a rental to rent one of these really expensive gowns. And I find exactly the right one. So
Nice.
now I'm waiting for my tickets to come in for the Grammys, and nothing comes. And I'm like, well, that's strange. It's really weird. So
Yeah.
I call her up, and she's like, well, maybe you'll have to call them and see what happens. I call them up, and they say, well, they say, I understand that you're one of the songwriters on the record, but unless your family and she's dead, you're not invited. I was
Another
like,
no.
who are you people? Who are you people? So crushed again.
Uh,
Unfortunately, she didn't win, but
but what
it was just
wasn't meant to be. Hey,
to me.
let's do this, Christine. Let's go to another break. And I'd be
Okay.
remiss if we didn't talk about your collaboration with Heather Hardy. And I want you to talk about the show that met you at, which is
Yeah.
at the
Of
at
course.
the bitter end with Diane Lotney and Scarlett Rivera. So great stories. I really want to know the backstory of Heather Hardy. And hey, everybody, stick with us. We'll be right back.
Awesome.
Are you ready for the ultimate podcasting adventure? The Long Island Sound podcast offers you not one, but 2 ways to engage with our captivating content. Tune in to our audio podcast on your favorite platform and let your imagination paint vivid pictures of Long Island stories. Or if you're craving a visual feast, catch our video podcast on Spotify and on the Long Island Sound YouTube channel. Double the options, double the excitement.
Hey, everybody, we're back with Christine Santelli. And Christine, I really want to get the inside. Now, Heather is a violinist, and there was something magical about watching you guys on stage. I'm just not blowing smoke up your skirt, but to see Heather look at Scarlett Rivera with awe. Tell me how all you guys are connected and how that came about for you to be on stage that night with Heather.
Okay, so let me tell you the Heather story first, and then I'm going to tell you the Diane story.
Great.
So we go back to Scotland Yard again, where I was booking the venue, this is where I really got to meet so many people, because the scene became, it was well known. I mean,
Okay.
a lot of national touring acts wanted to play there. And we only had music on Saturday jam, we had Sunday music, Monday jam, and Tuesday and Wednesday. So it was only 3 slots for music, because the jams were the other days. But anyway, somehow Heather sent me a CD or something. I'm not sure what it was back then. I don't know, And so I booked her at Scotland Yard, and she had her band, and so we knew each other through that, and she played regularly. Um, she always had a great band, and but we never played together.
Okay.
And I'm gonna let her tell you the story about how she ended up in Tucson, but she left New York and went out to Tucson, but her family's still in Connecticut, so she would come back and forth. And I had spoken earlier about like all of the venues closing down and not having a gig, and I started doing this solo gig, and I was at Cafe Vivaldi in the West Village, and she called me up and said, "I'm in town, and I see you're playing, and I was wondering if I could come on and sit in with you." So I was not. I would. She walked in the middle of the first set, and I was like, let's wait until I take a break and then bring her up. I swear to God, from the first note, I was like, why have we waited all these years not to
Right.
play together? This is the crazy. You lived here.
Yeah.
Why did we? But you know what? It was timing. It was the right time for us.
Sure.
So, but we were both like, this is crazy. Every time she would come to New York, I would book shows. Eventually, I started learning some of her material as well, not her just playing my
Mhm.
material. And then she was just playing violin for a while. And then it's like, one of her friends was like, she's a great singer. I said, I know she's a great singer. And he's like, you should do harmonies together. I'm like, yeah, duh. Why didn't we think of that? So then we started doing harmonies together. And it's just like, I mean, the connection between us, between the music and the harmonies and
Oh,
the
nice.
feeling on stage, it's just,
Right.
it's sometimes it's overwhelming to me. I start crying, and I always want to hug her. I just love you so much. And so, yeah, so that's been going on for 14 years. We took it down south and did a tour down there and played in New Orleans and played in Alabama. We played in Mississippi and, um, I don't know, a whole bunch of places. And then she's like, they're doing a folk festival out here. Well, I went out to play with her. I think I did like 5 or 6 shows out in Tucson.
Okay.
And then she got me into this folk festival as we play as a duo. And so we've been doing that for the last few years and also doing other gigs. So I go at least once a year out to Tucson and do gigs out there as well. Now, this past time, I was like, we were here and I said, we can just record a record live because we don't have time. You're out there, I'm over here, but let's
Right.
record a live record. And, because people are always wanting to buy our stuff, not just my stuff and your stuff at
Sure.
these festivals and these places. So we recorded a record,
Live in the Parlour.
live in the Parlour back in, it came out in January.
Oh, nice.
But it was, we didn't do it right. We didn't do the song drop and this whole like they do. We don't really, it's like, if I could redo it, I'd redo it, but it's what it is. Anyway,
Right.
we just recently did Hudson City West, which brings me up to, the how this happened on Sunday with Scarlett and Diane. So
Okay.
I flew Heather in for this show because I thought it was really, really important. It was going to be a one-off. She was coming in
Yep.
and flying out the next day. That's how it was going to go down.
Wow. Okay.
So because she was doing this incredible, she was with an orchestra that was playing her music, like backing her up, like, and she was in between rehearsals. It was the
Yeah. I
worst
saw it.
possible.
By the interrupt. Yeah, I saw it on YouTube. And by the way, just for those who don't know, a lot of stuff we're going to be talking about, there'll be links in the description so you can see what we're talking about.
Right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So it was like, she's like, well, I can fly out, red eye, but I got to be back. I have this thing on Sunday. So in the interim, Diane comes to the jam one night. She tells me, I'm doing this thing with Scarlett Rivera, and she's telling Heather was there too. This was
Right.
like several months before, but the festival had been booked. And so I don't know the real story if it was booked because that's the weekend we were there, or it was just
It
fate
was
that it happened.
Kismet. Yep.
You
Yep.
know, like, and so Heather's like, well, I'm changing my ticket. There's nothing going to stop me from this because she'll tell you the story about Diane and her and in
Okay. Great.
California. So, it just was like kismet. I don't know. And so Diane said, listen, I'll get you guys up at the end. You'll sing background with me for
Mhm.
one song, and Heather will play with Scarlett for the one song. So we do the festival the night before. I wake up in the morning. There's a message from Diane, and
Okay.
so I call her back, and she goes, "All right, things have changed. Um,
Okay.
I got a great idea." She goes, you're not just a background singer, Christine. You're a songwriter. You play with Heather. She goes, I want you to perform one of your songs. And
Nice.
and I was like, oh man, this is so cool. I mean, it was already like incredibly cool because I had told her I'm coming to the show before I knew that she was going to invite me to sing.
Right.
I was like,
Right.
I'm there. I've cleared my schedule. This is going to be a great event. Blah blah blah. I'm coming. And then the second, then she tells me I'm going to sing on like it's that song. And then she tells me the morning of, no, you're not only doing that, but then, which is amazing. But then as the night progresses, it turns into a jam session for the last half hour, singing and playing and all
That
different
was.
songs and like
It was great. It was really from being in the audience and recording things. I was like, holy crap, this is just really
it
wonderful.
really was something. It really was something. So I hope that, we are able to take this and go on the road, then it'd be awesome. I know everyone's down to do it. So if we can get the
Nice.
logistics, done, we'll do it as a review, as 3 acts, and then we all get together and do a finale of sorts.
Oh, that'd be
So,
wonderful.
yeah, I got all my toes and arms crossed for that. I hope that happens. But the thing about Diane is I've known Diane since
Diane Lotney, by the way.
Diane Lotney. I've known Diane Lotney, the great Diane Lotney, for over 30 years, and we met
Wow.
at the Ear Inn, which is my home away from home.
Okay.
Um, and we met someone that we both knew that I didn't know that we knew each other that knew each other was playing that night, and we were both in line at the bathroom to use the bathroom, and the line was maybe 12 deep because there's one tiny little bathroom, and we started chatting. And all of a sudden, we're both singers. Then all of a sudden, we know everybody the same. And then it's like, how do we not know each other?
Right.
And you know, we're talking 30 something years ago. So
Nice.
we're
But
you never know how another female is gonna be with another female or with another female song like singer. And Diane and I hit it off so much. People were like, how did that go down? I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? We're like, so we would be like,
nice.
oh, who's playing tonight? And we just get up whatever night it was. We'll see who's playing. We'd pick up the newspaper and the Village Voice and say who's playing tonight, and we just hit every spot
Oh,
and just
wow.
jump on stage, the two of us.
Well,
We
that's
had a
cool.
blast. We had a lot of fun, and so yeah, Diane. I mentioned, Diane knew that I was working with this woman. I introduced her to Heather, and once again, just hit it off. Like, how did we
Yep.
not know each other? Because we all knew each other, knew the same people in the late 80s, early 90s. How did we not know each other? How did
Right.
this happen? But here we are all this time later, and, maybe it's meant to be. This is how it worked out. So, yeah,
That's
pretty
great.
amazing.
So tell me this. So right next door to the Bitter End is the Red Lion. Tell me
Right.
about that jam that you do.
Okay, so we go back straight again to Scotland Yard.
Okay.
This jam started at Scotland Yard. I handpicked the musicians. From most of them are from New York.
Okay.
Because most of my time was spent in New York and for playing, and I started it. It's been 30. I think it's I don't know. It's a long time, 30 years. I think it's 30 years.
Wow.
It's been consistently going on. It started in Hoboken, and once I was let go, the guy offered to keep them on, and one guy chose to go with me, which was Ed, and one guy chose not to go with me and stayed. And that guy, um, lost his job, and if he'd stayed with me, I had something all set
Yeah,
up.
he made the wrong
He
choice.
made the
Yeah,
wrong choice.
it
So,
happens. Yeah.
yeah, so we moved around 3 times within a year and a half, 2 years. And
Okay.
then, but we never missed more than 1 week. I think we missed 1 week because when
Wow.
they did move with me,
Right.
it was the following week. We didn't lose then, but I think with one of the new places, we might have lost 1 week. Um, but then we've been at the Red Lion now for over 10 years.
Nice.
I think, yeah. And not only that, like a lot of people used to travel to New Jersey because we were right outside the path station. So it wasn't hard to get to
Sure.
come to the jam. It's a lot of New Yorkers. But now that we're on Bleecker Street, it's like, Monday is a perfect night because a lot of people
Or off. Yeah.
are off. And then when they come home from tour, they usually come in on a Sunday. They have Monday off. So, you never know who's walking in there, including Diane Lottie. You know what I mean? Um, it's
Great.
just amazing who that are well-known folks that have come to sit in. But then the actual, like the regulars, the music level is just so insanely high.
Nice.
And one of the things that I do is I organize, and I find players, I get to know them, I know their strengths and weaknesses, and I put them with people like a puzzle. I put them
Yeah,
with
sure.
people where they will succeed. So it's just become an incredible thing. There's been marriages from this, there's been divorces from this. There's kids now coming to the jam that their parents came to the jam. And, a lot of bands have been made in the room, like people
Wow.
have gone on to do special things like Dave Gross, who's a Grammy-nominated producer. He came when he was 15 years old, and now he's 40 years old, and he's a Grammy-nominated producer with several, different records under so many amazing records under his belt. So yeah, it's been a you know
What's an
place.
amazing about that story and how you relate it is, you can go to a jam. I've gone to several, and it can be somewhat real haphazard, not
Yeah.
planned. But the fact you're like a chef putting the right ingredients together to really deliver something that's high quality, and that's what makes the really good musicians go, that's a jam I want to go to.
Yeah, and
'Cause,
one of the
yeah,
things about a jam too is you can get jaded and just be like, oh, it's every Monday, it's blah blah blah, and that's why people fail. They don't
right.
pay attention,
Yep.
and so I found things like getting a little stale, and I had to step up.
Right.
And so that was not my role, but I stepped up, and the fear of it going away is possible. Just because it's been going on for 30 years doesn't mean
Right.
it's successful or they're making money, because this is not in somebody's living room. This is a business.
Yep.
So, when you get things like that, you have to be responsible for that side. So, it's always, I'm always on the edge of my seat to make sure things are running properly.
That's great.
Because it's 30 years and I'd like to see it continue, and I'd like to see the next generation of musicians continue it.
That's nice. Well, I tell you, Christine, it's really been a pleasure having this discussion. I find it a blessing that we got to know each other a little bit better right here on the podcast. I definitely got to have you back because you have 1,000 more stories to tell. And thank you for letting me into your circle.
It was my pleasure.
And what you do. It's just it's really wonderful. And a good friend told me, you can account for what you have in the bank. You can't account for the time that you have left, and the fact that you gave me over an hour of your time to have this conversation. It's truly a blessing. I thank you for
please.
it.
Look at my face. I'm like smiling like ear to ear. It's my happy place right now. So I really appreciate it. And you're a great interviewer as well. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Look forward to having you back. Look forward to diving into your music. And
one thing before we go, though, wanted to let
please.
everybody know, I'm not some people are very familiar with him. He's a great guitar player, Jim Mastro. He opened this great place in Hoboken. It's called the 503 Social Club. And I'm going to be playing there with Heather on the 22nd, Friday the 22nd.
Okay.
And you have to get it on Facebook tickets because it's a small venue, but it's a really cool place.
Nice. So everybody look in the description. You'll see the information for those tickets. And great. I'm glad you remembered to plug that.
Yeah, because that was a big one for me. Yeah.
All right, everybody.
All right.
We'll
Awesome.
see you next time. Be well.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate the time you spent with us. Please subscribe and comment and visit us at gigdestiny.com. Till next time, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. Be well. Peace.